The service we're going to do today is the 100-hour service. Even though Frank's only got about 80 hours on, we do it annually. And since we're close to the 100 hours, we'll do the 100-hour service. We get the service kit LG265, the John Deere service kit, and we're also going to put new blades on because his blades are getting pretty old after 4 years. In the LG265 service kit, we get the oil filter, a fuel filter, air filters, and spark plugs. So that's the main part of the service. And we follow the chart on the inside of the mower. And that gives us what needs to be done for the service. Okay, first things first, we're going to drop the oil and then take the oil filter off as well. Left hand side of the mower, as you're sitting on it, is where you'll find the oil cap, the oil drain and the oil filter. So we just use a small oil pan to drain the oil. So just undo this tab here and let the oil drop out. Keep in mind it's going to be warm because we warmed the tractor up to start with. And we'll just let that drain. While that's draining, we'll take the oil filter off. Where the oil filter is positioned, if we just let it drain, it's going to run all through the bottom of the chassis and down onto the ground. So we just use a bit of cardboard, just like that. So when it's draining, it'll just go down the cardboard and into the drain. To help it drain, just take the oil cap off loosely. Just let the air in. Okay, while that's draining, we'll put the new oil filter on. We also need to lubricate that rubber seal with new engine oil. And that just makes sure you get a better seal. Now the torque tightening for these oil filters is half a turn after the rubber hits the surface. It's just hit the surface now, so it's half a turn. So I want this bit here to be around there. Just to help to get oil out of the sump, what you can do is very, very gently use your compressor, hose down into the neck where you fill the oil, and use something like this just to cover it up. Just very, very gently. You'll see that it gets the rest of the oil out. The plug goes back in, the drain plug. Not too tight. It bites it about upright here, and just a quick nip. So oil back in. This takes about 1.7 litres. And onto the second bottle, and this one will take down to 500, start it up, and then take it down to 300 and see how we go with the dipstick. That just lets it get the oil into the oil filter, and we'll check the dipstick in a couple of minutes. Level is just down here at the moment. Okay, that's 1.7 litres in. Now we'll just check the level again, and we're spot on. Beautiful. The air filter has two parts, the main part and then a cover that fits over. So the cover just slides over like this, and then the new filter goes on like that. To get to the filter, unlock these two tabs. Just pull that cover up, like that. There's a tab just down in here. You twist the tab to loosen the clamp for the air filter. It just pops out like this. Just make sure it slides in all the way, goes in like that. Make sure this seal here is all the way in, and just tighten up this belt again. It slips just over the top. Just make sure it's seated properly, and then close these tabs up so they're like that. You hear them click and you know it's in place. Okay, so now we do the fuel filter. The fuel filter flow, you've got an arrow down here. So the flow is from bottom to top, fuel tank into the engine. And a little bit of fuel is going to drip out, so I just put a rag down underneath here so it doesn't go down to the chassis. Just slide them off the filter both ways. Don't have to slide them very far. Okay, that one's out. Make sure the orientation's correct. Over the pipe. Okay, that's the old filter out. We'll just start it up now and just check to make sure there's no fuel leaks. Okay, and onto the spark plugs. We're going to put new spark plugs in, and the gap is 0.75 of a mil. Even though they're new plugs, we are going to just check the gap anyway, just to be safe. And just check the gap, and it fits in there nicely. It should feel like there's a magnet, so it's not too tight, not too loose. And yep, that's good too. And onto the old plugs. This is a V engine, one on this side, one on the other side, exactly the same. Just have to pull the cap. Okay, we have a 13/16 socket, spark plug socket. Out with the old, see what sort of condition they're in. Just do it with your finger to start with until you get it going, so you don't get it cross-threaded. You have a torque specification in the manual, it's 20 Newton meters. There we are, that's at 20. And once that's done, just put the cover back on. It'll click into place. On to the next one. Okay, that's both plugs in. Both caps are back on the plug. Onto the chassis so we can start greasing the grease nipples. Now we grease the chassis and the deck. There's 6 points, they're just grease nipples. So what you'll need to do is get a grease gun, and this foot here needs to be greased down under here. This nipple's just here for that foot pedal. Under here for the spindle, there's a grease nipple just in here. And there's one on the other side of the deck, which I'll show you in a minute. Front axle, there's 3 grease nipples. First one's here. There's a grease nipple there. While we're around this side, we'll do the spindle. And then there's the last of the 6 grease nipples is in the center of the axle. Clips onto the nipple like this. I just squeeze enough until I can see the grease coming out the bottom, knowing that it's all been filled up again. As you can see, the grease is now starting to come up, so I know that that is full. Into the spindle. On the spindle. Onto the axle again. Just watch for the grease coming out of the front of the axle. There it comes, that's done. And that's the deck and the axle lubricated. After we grease the axle and the deck, we've just done some other basic things, like we've cleaned the fins on under here for the cylinder heads to help the air cooling. We've also cleaned out all under through here to make sure the fins here are nice and clean as well. We've checked the battery terminals to make sure they're all clean. We've blown the tyres up, 14 pound in the front, 10 pound in the back. And last but not least, for the service, we put a sticker up the top with details of the next service. And that's the service complete.